House of EdTech, episode 52.
Hi, this is Matt Miller from Ditch That Textbook, and you are listening to the House of EdTech with Chris Nesi.
The House of EdTech podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get your free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/House of EdTech. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Christopher Nesi, and the House of EdTech explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objectives include discussing technology that is changing our classrooms and schools and sharing tools and tips that you can hear about today and use tomorrow. I talk to teachers, leaders, and creators just like you and have them share their stories. The purpose? Whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. And welcome back to the House of EdTech. It's been a few weeks since the end of 2015, and I'm right back here in the saddle to start 2016 off with a bang. And what better way to do that than to bring in a very special guest here live in studio, because I sort of have a studio now. I reconfigured the room that I'm in, and I'd like to welcome back to the podcast my wife, Katelyn Nesi.
Thank you. Don't forget, I share this room too. It's my personal space to edit my photos and all of that as well.
That's right, and you have a new toy on your desk since the last time you were on the show. I
do. I purchased a 27-inch Retina Mac display, so it has completely changed my workflow. Since previously I was just using a MacBook Pro connected to a Dell monitor, which I believe you now have my old monitor.
I'm excited to have a new, larger Dell monitor.
Yes, so this works much faster. It cuts my editing time in half.
Nice, because in addition to being a high school media specialist, you're also a photographer. And for those who are interested and want to check that out, that's over at katenesi.com. So this is a very unique episode because I've never done a show with a co-host before, so this is different.
It is different. Usually I am with the children or cleaning up or doing something else, not sitting in here when you are interviewing guests.
Yeah, so we have another boom arm, another microphone, and this looks really good. I'm actually going to post some photos in the show notes, not of us doing this right now, but the new setup of the studio, and I think people will like to see that.
Yeah, we have a long way to go. A lot of renovations to do in here, but it's working so far.
As I don't know if you know this, but I've been marketing this as my makerspace of EdTech, the whole house.
Oh, yeah, well, it is a makerspace. We sure make a lot of things.
And that'll actually kind of work in nice as to some of the things we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty content of our conversation, and the whole episode, we'll have the EdTech thought. Katelyn's going to do the EdTech recommendation today. She's got something really cool to share.
Yes, absolutely.
So if it sounds a little bumpy, I'm recording this kind of like live to drive. So bear with us. We're having a good time here. I do want to mention some feedback that I got recently for the show. Thank you to Kathy Iwanicki and Steven Spizzato, both on Twitter. Kathy let me know that she's getting great ideas from the podcast and really enjoyed episode 51, the EdTech Smackdown, year 2. And Steven Spizzato, a nice shout out to him. He connected on Twitter with me. And Steven is also a podcaster, and he has a show called GTKRI, which stands for Getting to Know Rhode Island. And Katelyn Steve's show is all about teachers and education in Rhode Island. And that can be found at techwithsteve.com. I checked it out, and it's actually pretty cool. If you're interested in that, even if you're not from Rhode Island, because we're not, check out his show. And also, and Katelyn, you saw me do this one Saturday morning, I got to be finally on one of my favorite podcasts, Principal PLN with Spike Cook.
Yes.
Teresa wasn't there, Jess wasn't there, but I got to be on episode 70 with Spike, and we were talking about blab.im, which you know I love.
Yes, you're obsessed with blab. Blab, blab, blab.
Blab, 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 blabbity, blab, blab.
That's all I hear about. Blab.
We're having too much fun here. okay, so that was cool. So thank you to Spike for having me on the show. Really impromptu. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully I can come back another time and bring some more relevant content to that show as well. And it's also nice because they're also part of the Education Podcast Network, which, of course, this podcast is the flagship show of.
Cool.
Katelyn, why don't we get into the EdTech recommendation for this episode?
All right, so I've been sharing this site or app with a lot of people I've been working with. It's awesome. It's called Flux, F.LUX, and their website is justgetflux.com. Flux makes your computer screen look like the room you're in all the time. So when the sun sets, it makes your computer look like indoor lights. In the morning, it makes things look like the sunlight again. The blue light from your devices can bother your eyes or mess with your circadian rhythms for going to sleep and things like that. So I actually have to turn it off when I am editing photos, but it's great. You basically tell Flux what kind of lighting you have and where you live, and then you forget about it. And Flux does everything automatically based on your location and GPS and everything. So when the sun sets, the blue light goes away slowly, and your screen gets more orange. So I actually have shared it with a lot of teachers I work with. I know here in the Northeast, currently we go to work in the dark. So actually when I open my laptop at work, usually my screen is orange and it slowly gets brighter as the sun comes out. So a lot of people have really liked that so that their eyes aren't being strained first thing in the morning when they get to work. And it's great too if you work late into the evening. So blue light actually affects your sleep a lot, and it can cause you to be, it can bother your eyes a lot, but this is from Flux's website. We know that nighttime exposure to blue light keeps people up late, so we believe that Flux adjusts colors in a way that greatly reduces the stimulating effects of blue light at night. They spoke with a lot of researchers, and they've read a whole lot of papers to kind of figure out the science behind it. So you could take a look more at some more information on their website about the research and things that they've looked at. So Flux is a donationware, so definitely say check it out. Consider supporting their efforts. They've done a great job. The website, again, is justgetflux.com. It works on Mac, PC. They had an iOS app that was pulled from the Apple Store. Turns out Apple basically has taken their idea and apparently in their future releases, I think like 9.2, I read recently, they basically banned their app from the App Store, took it, and they're building it into the settings and options into your iOS. So it's great that it's coming to mobile devices. I just feel really bad for the company, unless maybe there's some backdoor deals that went on. I don't know. But basically they were pulled because their app controlled different integral parts of iOS or something. I read a whole bunch of stuff on it. You know, I'm really looking forward to having that option on my iPod so that I can, when I'm looking at it at night, that's not also waking me up. So again, the website's justgetflux.com, and that's my EdTech recommendation.
And now I'm going to come right back at you with my EdTech thought. And I'm going to be sharing, and Katelyn, you're welcome to chime in on this. I'm sharing my resolutions for the House of EdTech here in 2016 that I recently blogged about. So my 3 resolutions for the podcast this year: number 1, write my book.
Oh, that's cool.
Number 2, connect more with my listeners.
Great.
And number 3, pursue my passions. So the book, that's kind of a big deal because up until like Christmas time, I was dead set against writing a book. Like, I don't like to write sentences, let alone put together a whole book. I'm not writing War and Peace.
No.
This is going to be more of
Pride and Prejudice. Little Women.
This is going to be more, and this is at your suggestion and encouragement, to write some type of ebook. And the ebook that I want to write is, the working title in my head is, I like to say stuff, and you can too. And it's going to be a book about how to podcast as a teacher in the classroom. Even if you just wanted to start a podcast for yourself, it's going to have my perspective and my spin and my recommendations on how to do that. So you can look forward to maybe small releases through the website I don't know quite how it's going to work. I have a lot of other things that I'm doing right now that are going to stop me from starting that. But at some point this year,
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
it should be good. And I'm putting out to you and to you, the listener. So to hold me accountable and every so often ask me, hey, how's the book coming, Chris?
I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, you're very good at that. Number 2 was connecting more with you, the listener. As a podcaster, I make a point of putting great effort into creating each episode of this podcast. And as I've mentioned many times during the show's run, I am thankful for you and every listener that I have. The iTunes ratings and reviews always encourage me to continue creating for you, and I want to give you even more value. And what I'm working on, Kate, is to conduct a number of virtual meetups powered by, guess what, Blab, where, you can come on, we can chat, or even maybe some more but to start maybe doing some Google Hangouts with some listeners who can pick my brain, and I can just talk. I'll talk about anything.
I know you will. No, that sounds great. I think a lot of people enjoy that. I think that's a good way to kind of connect with people and find out what they're interested in. So you can kind of get the people on who can share that information and help them get what they need.
Yeah, and since the whole point of the show is to have people share their stories, the more people I meet, the more stories I can discover and share.
Yes, because I am sure there is a lot going on in education across the country and around the world.
That would be cool to have. Well, I've had an international guest, but I'd like more international guests. So if you're an international guest, email me, mr@chrisnesi.com, and let's talk. I want to hear your story.
Yeah, definitely to hear something from outside our country as to what's going on in the education system, or even with technology and what they're using and how they're using it differently.
Absolutely. And to close this out, the third resolution I have for this year is to pursue my passion. Now, this might sound silly, but I'm a teacher who enjoys teaching teachers. My professional goal is to secure a position that allows me to work with teachers and coach other educators in the integration of technology into their classrooms. I want to work maybe at the district level or have a voice in the decision-making process as it pertains to technology and curriculum. I've got a master's in curriculum, a passion for technology, and I'm taking that to another level because this semester I'm taking the courses I need to get my supervisor certification here in the state of New Jersey, and I'm looking forward to moving forward in my career and pursuing some of these things that I'm really interested in.
But I think whatever librarians work in the district that you work in will connect very well with you, especially since that's what a lot of what I do on a daily basis. So definitely, I've seen you change over the years, and you've used technology a lot in the classroom yourself. So you kind of know some of what teachers are up to and what's going on. So I think that's great. I think that'll be a really exciting thing to come this year, and I hope that it will all come together.
Thank you, dear. See, that's the beautiful thing. And I've actually told somebody recently this, Katelyn, that you hear the saying, oh, behind every good man, there's an even better woman, kicking his butt.
Uh-huh.
I am the poster child of that statement.
We should design you a poster.
You just want to be photographed kicking my butt.
There you go. That'll be fun. I'm good with self-portraits.
Absolutely. So those are my 3 resolutions for this year. And overall, that is my EdTech thought. So now for the meat and potatoes of this episode, and Katelyn and I went back and forth before we recorded this about what to call this. Could it be, 7 tips to do this, or 5 ways or recommendations? So what we came up with is NCLB. No cash left behind. Katelyn, we're going to have a little conversation right now about how we are living a life on teacher salaries and some of the things that we're doing that relate to personal finance, being in education.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the mishmash of the whole thing. So no cash left behind. And Katelyn, you're going to start it off because you're going to share with the listeners some of the things that we're doing in terms of the technology we use to manage our finances. So take it away.
All right. Well, a lot of the technology we use is actually pretty basic. We started out with using Google Drive and Google, actually it was like Google Docs when that first came out. We created budgets in Google Docs and Google Sheets. That was probably over 10 years ago now. From there, we have a we have a Google Drive shared folder that we call the house. So for us, the house is the main folder as to what's going on with all of us together. For that, we have Google Docs we use for kind of our mission statement and goals, and we share that information. And then we use Google Sheets for shared budgeting. Every year we kind of go over the budget. Usually we do our budget based on the school year, not necessarily the calendar year.
And I'm going to jump in and, I think that's a big tip that a lot of people maybe don't think about. They maybe budget, if they're budgeting, January to December. But I think that's a unique approach that we have by going school year, September to June.
Yeah, we kind of, our fiscal year starts in September and we end, the following August. So we put aside money for that summer and all of that kind of goes in. And then the following September, because we get raises in that, type of situation as well. Like everything changes for us. Or if you change positions or different buildings and whatever, stipends and things, a lot of that all starts and happens in September. Or, or if you decide not to do something any longer, it ends in that June year. So for us, I've always kind of kept it at the school year once we both started working in schools on the 10-month salary.
And we're also not fortunate enough to work in districts. And I don't even know if we would take advantage of it, where I know some districts you can have money taken out and get a paycheck or two over the summer.
Yeah. Some districts will do that, or they have companies that you can pay a small fee to. We just do it ourselves. Pretty easy to, as long as you have a budget and you know what your bills are, you can pretty much set it up and then know what you need to save for those months. So we have a separate account that it automatically goes into every paycheck. We don't touch it. We don't see it. And then when summer comes, we just pull from that account as needed to pay the bills.
And I got to say, Katelyn is right now making it sound like I'm involved in this process, other than the fact that I get paid every 2 weeks and it's direct deposit, and then she sees what and it goes into the account. It's all her. She is the brains.
Well, and a lot of it's automated. So I kind of evaluate our budget twice a year, I would say, because I do evaluate it around the new year and just kind of see, are we on the right track? Do we want to, are we meeting our goals? Do we have different projects? We've been doing a lot of projects with the new house. So we kind of divert finances in different directions.
And sometimes a random Saturday, you'll pull up the spreadsheet and decide to play with the numbers.
And I'm like, let's just look at it and see what else we can kind of eke out and squeeze out there, because we do no cash left behind. Our budget is a zero-based budget. So every dollar has a place and a home. So there's never really money just lying around extra, because we both know ourselves, and if the money's sitting around extra, it will be spent. So we basically focus in on every dollar has a direction, and no cash is left behind. But
no, I was going to say, one of the things that makes that work for us, whether it's the shared drive or the documents or the fact that I have access to the spreadsheets and, we share the accounts, obviously, it comes down to communication.
Absolutely. I mean, having, the shared documents and budgets and everything, we kind of review things a little bit in the summer, or I'll tell you, hey, I updated some stuff, take a look at it. Or if you ever, want to know what's going on with the finances, because now that it's automated and we're kind of used to how we run things, we don't go over it as much as we used to. But when we were first married and first living together and everything, we kind of went over it together and like, what's our goals? What do we want to do? What's our focus? What are we trying to make happen in the next year? So then over time, as I've gotten more into different blogs and interests in finance and personal finance, we've kind of shifted gears and focus. A lot of marriages end in divorce over money. So a lot of times that's the biggest problem, is people aren't communicating. I mean, I don't think there's ever a time where you or I ever use, our debit card and we say, oh no, they're going to be mad at us. We spent the money.
There are no secret purchases.
Yeah. Like I don't have to hide shoes under the bed. I don't have to bring things in and hide them as if oh, maybe he won't notice I got, this. Everything's pretty much discussed ahead of time, or if you're going to Home Depot, want to buy stuff, wood to work, tools, whatever, you're like, I need to get this. Okay.
Or if it's you bought something and then before I could even say anything, I'm returning it.
I do return things a lot, but the other thing too is we do have separate small accounts that we keep for ourselves, so we can use that money for what we want.
Discretionary funds.
Yeah. So, and we have allowances and things like that. So we have built-in, fun money and entertainment stuff, and then there's a lot of shared expenses and things that kind of fall under the house. So just to go back to the technology, with Google Sheets too, I have sheets set up for our mortgage amortization so that I can kind of follow as as we're paying it down, where it's going. This year I went back to tracking expenses. For several years there, once we had kids, it kind of became so much to pay attention to every little thing. So now we're back to mainly one of the biggest expenses we just try to keep track of is food. A lot of times, like, I have a budget for food, but we always tend to go over, especially if we food shop together. It's like, oh, but I want this. I love that. Or, or if the kids are with us, they want something special. So, or recently I've been really into purple sweet potatoes. So,
and I'll never turn down a bag of Oreos.
Yeah. So if I get a bag of sweet potatoes, sometimes we get some Oreos on the side. So we use it for expense tracking. And then another great thing that I just started doing this year, I'll tell you more about where I learned about it, was a net worth worksheet. So as we're getting rid of debts or investing or, doing all of that kind of stuff, sometimes when you live frugally and you're putting your money aside or saving a good portion of your income, a lot of times you kind of sometimes feel deprived because your friends or people that you work with or people that make more money than you, sometimes, we have a lot of friends that actually probably make double what we make. So they travel, they do a lot of things that we can't do within our budget. So the net worth worksheet kind of helps you see over time, like, where you're kind of like you are making progress. And this is what your progress
Well, let me say,
like.
It's not that we can't do things.
Yeah.
I think it's more of we make the choice.
We choose not to.
We choose not to because we don't want to go above our means.
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, and if we made double the salary, it wouldn't be above our means. But for us, we want to live like pretty well below our means because we have some plans for the future. So by doing that, we can make those plans happen a little bit earlier in our life. The next note I was going to talk about also was I just found this really cool spreadsheet through this little CFO course I'm taking, and it's all about the financial age of independence and your age and profit margin, which was really cool. So it was like, okay, if you want to be like financially free by this point, this is how much you need to save and all that kind of stuff. So
and
it's
where did you find that again?
It was through the Money Boss. So moneyboss.com. JD Roth just created this new site, and he has a 10-week CFO course that I'm taking. So I'm going to talk about a couple of blogs that I read in just a minute. But yeah, so because a lot of people think, early retirement or retirement, they assume you just want to go sit around and do nothing. But, our focus is really financial independence. We basically don't want to have to work. We want to be able to work because we enjoy our work and want to continue it, following your passions. So,
and as we've said, and we joked about this at one point, we want to be able to be financially free, to not have a mortgage, and then be able to spend our money to travel around and leave our house that we don't have to pay for.
Yeah, you make fun of me for that. Yeah, because we worked the last probably decade working on becoming debt free completely from student loans and cars.
We don't have student loans; they're all paid off.
Car
We've gotten
loans.
a master's.
Yeah, 2 master's degrees.
I've got a master's.
We've got post-grad certs and all sorts of stuff we started to pay for out of pocket.
The cash only plan.
Yeah, so no cash left behind. But yeah, so we just we really focus on, we want to be able to, be free and make those choices later on in life. So we're sacrificing some things now for the future. But, if we made double the amount of money, it would just happen sooner, basically. I don't think we would really change our lifestyle a whole lot because I think we've become kind of accustomed to...
You won't let me change my lifestyle.
I think we've become accustomed to what we do and how we do things. And I quite enjoy trying to find, we've learned a lot about home cooking and you've learned a lot about woodworking and stuff around the house. And I think if we never kind of changed our mindset and our goals and our focus, we would have never really took that time to learn things. A lot of people will just be happy to pay somebody. And for us, we're like, well, we're not really in that budget range to pay, for this or that, or somebody to come in and like renovate an entire house, so. I was going
to say that we both really embody the idea of being a lifelong learner. It's not just for students. Like,
yeah.
I go on YouTube. You'll go to YouTube. We'll find how to do something.
And the coolest thing I think too is, years ago we did it it was a need, not necessarily a want or desire to become that. It was just like, we're, in this situation, we both made a lot less money and things were tight. And then the economy tanked and, a lot of things went crazy for us. But then it kind of, once the kids came along, it was like, oh, this is fun. Like we can show them that like we're still learning and we're still trying new things. And, here are skills that you can have in your life that you may not learn in a classroom or you may have to learn on your own. So a lot of that's been a lot of fun too. Like Miles loves Bob, I like to make stuff, right? And
I like to make stuff.com. Absolutely.
yeah, so there's a lot of cool things that we've learned or come across. And I feel like with technology today, as much as people say it's a burden or it's a distraction, I think it's also opened up so many doors to what you can learn. Yeah,
it's a tool.
There's nothing you can't decide to learn. There's been so many things over the years that I was like, oh, like I never thought I could own a business. I never thought I could do any of that kind of stuff. So I was like, this is for somebody who knows how to do this, who has a business degree. And, and then it was like, wait a minute. I work in a library. I can read books. I can learn this. And then it was like, wow, I can learn this. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to learn how to crochet with a colleague of mine. So, it's just like, what else can I learn? I want to try it. So we'll go back to the technology, though, for personal finance. I also use a lot. I used to use Microsoft Money on PC. When I switched to Mac, I was kind of desperate to find a program that I liked. There's not a lot that translates to Mac in that sense. So I use a program called Money Dance. And it's relatively inexpensive comparably to, some of the larger known programs. And it's pretty simple. I just use it mainly for a check register. So, Chris will give me the receipts and tell me, here's what I spent or whatever. I get emails for every time cards are used or, for whatever. So I just kind of keep track there of money coming and going and kind of forecast the next 2 to 3 weeks in advance so I can make sure that we have everything covered. Your
favorite thing to tell me is we get paid next week and we have X number of dollars in there till then.
Don't spend it.
But it's you're always forecasting.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like earlier in the week, I could say, hey, we're only going to have X number of dollars left. Don't go over this amount, if you need to go and stop and pick up something or whatever. So I always know at least 2 weeks in advance what our finances are going to look like. So that's also another thing by going with a zero-based budget and financial freedom and all of that kind of stuff. We don't live paycheck to paycheck. Like we could easily survive on our bills, through a few pay cycles and then be able to go that way. And then I have a really low-tech recommendation, but as a librarian, I'm going to recommend it. I use my local library. I go, whether I have financial books actually in my school library that I love to share with students. There's a lot of cool ones that I've bought over the years. And I've gotten students involved and interested, especially with college loans and everything going on now. So I try to share a lot of, this is what's to come that we weren't aware of. So I go to my local library and, I've read stuff by Dave Ramsey, like, the snowball method of debt freedom and all that kind of stuff, The Millionaire Next Door. So Susie Orman, different books like that I really enjoyed. Last, I just wanted to talk about a couple blogs that I enjoy. I have 3 blogs that I've been reading for years that have kind of got me hooked into personal finance and this different.
I'm just going to jump in again real quick. She's going to tell you about 3 blogs, but she reads a whole lot more. So
these are like my top 3.
These are really good because you share articles all the time with me.
I would probably say I have about 7 to 10 financial blogs. And for me, I'm very motivated when I'm reading something and learning about something. So when you learn something new, even for me when I'm running, if I'm running, more and more training for a marathon, the more I read about it, the more I'm excited to go do it. So it's the same thing. I read these blogs and then I'm like, what more can we do? How can I optimize this? How can we get to the next level?
You just explained why I really enjoy education technology. Because you read all the financial blogs and I'm constantly looking up blogs and websites and resources to learn about this stuff.
And you're constantly saying, try this in your library, try this with your teachers. So usually I'm like, no. And then I try it one day and I'm like, this is great.
Like Overcast?
Yes.
Just going to say.
I love Overcast. I have now been sharing that with everyone.
All right, tell us about the blog. Sorry.
Yeah. So one of the newest blogs that I really like is Money Boss by JD Roth. I mentioned that before. I'm taking a 10-week CFO course. That blog is mainly for kind of once you've gotten past debt freedom, like you may still have a mortgage or may still be kind of paying things off, but you got a pretty good handle on your finances. So you're not, all over the place and just trying to do basic budgeting. His is starting to go more into profit margins and investing and that kind of stuff. How to really like take over your finances and get to that next level and that next step. The next one is The Simple Dollar by Trent Ham. And I've been reading his for years. He actually sold his blog recently, so there's other posts in it, but I just have the RSS feed set to any articles posted by him. I'm not sure how much longer he's going to post in the blog. He said once he sold it, like he'd probably do it for another year or 2. So I love his stuff because he kind of shares his story. I think he has like 3 kids and they live in a small house and, but it's not like he doesn't do anything extreme where it's like, you're kind of like, this isn't really realistic for my lifestyle. I work
Everything seems
full-time
possible.
or it's just kind of like, I cook with beans and I, do this and that. And so I've actually written into Trent before, especially when we were buying our house, about some financial questions that ended up in his reader mailbag, which was fun to read. Yeah, so you can write him. He's very accessible and kind of get some questions answered if you're thinking. But I mean, his website's full of so much information that you can just kind of search it. And even if you did a Google search of your question and added in, the simpledollar.com kind of thing, it'll pull up the articles. Another blog I really love is Mr. Money Mustache. He has a tribe, the Mustachians. So, he tries to bring you along as a fellow Mustachian and kind of go with his ways. And
does he himself have a mustache?
He does.
Okay.
Yeah. There are pictures of him. And he basically over the years has he's retired. I mean, he retired at like 35. And it's like, to me, he's not crazy in that it's like, oh, it's not unreachable or it's not something you can't achieve. Because he, again, like he was like, I learned how to do this. I learned how to do that. And a lot of his posts, if you go to his blog and read it, you'll kind of be like, it kind of gives you a good kick in the gut. Like, hey, wait a minute, it's winter. That doesn't mean you can't ride your bike to the store like you did all summer. It's, why are you driving your car 2 blocks? So he's pretty good at that. Like I've actually gone walking on some of these cold days to go pick up Miles from school in a stroller and people look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, I don't live that far away. Like it's not that bad out. I can't fathom driving my car. He's going to yell at me. So check out his stuff, but he has a lot of great, blog posts about all sorts of topics and everything. And he just really makes you question what you're doing it for and kind of brings you back to reality. So I like reading his posts, because sometimes you get really wrapped up and you feel like buying a certain thing or having a certain thing is going to make a difference in your life. And really those kind of joys sometimes, as we know ourselves, are fleeting. And then you kind of go right back to the way you felt before. So sometimes he kind of stops me before I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need this. I really want this. And then I read a post or two from him and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be a mustachian instead. So yeah, why don't you tell your listeners a little bit about some of the things that we've done to kind of, like we try to always bring more income in and we do a lot of outside work other than our main jobs. But there's a lot of ways that we've actually kind of saved money over the years as to, kind of cutting back on the bills. So why don't you share that with everybody? Because I know you're excited about some of the things we've done.
I am excited because when I can find ways to save money, that makes you happy. One of the first things that we did about, I think we're 8 or 9 years now, we cut cable. We are cord cutters. And Katelyn was very skeptical.
Way before it became popular.
Yeah, way before there were blogs and websites about it.
Or even a lot of streaming or anything. I mean, yeah. Netflix wasn't even streaming at that point. It was only discs you can get in the mail.
Yeah, and we started with that a little bit.
Yeah.
But you were very skeptical. But we are cord cutters, and we have lived fine without having and paying for cable TV.
Yeah, because there's a lot of free streaming online, especially now. There's so much from even just the basic channels that are available. And there's so much on YouTube. I mean, once YouTube opened it up to like longer than 15-minute clip video kind of thing.
Sky was the limit.
Yeah. I mean, there's whole movies on YouTube now that are legal and
documentaries.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really great stuff. Yeah. We watched a lot of documentaries. We watched a lot of like basic cable stuff. We loved America's, what was the name of the show?
America's Test Kitchen.
America's Test Kitchen. We watched that like all the time together. I mean, we became kind of geeky, but we didn't know what was going on in the real world sometimes. But
no, we utilized Hulu before it became over corporate.
When Hulu first
and we still use it now, for stuff.
Yeah.
YouTube. There's a great resource, not a resource, but a website called US TV Now that you could pay for, but I have a free account that lets us watch basic cable. So as if we had the antenna on the house in the old days, we can get 2 through 13.
Yeah, because they changed it all to the digital.
And we also take advantage of a lot of the network websites, whether it's the CW, NBC, Fox.
Yeah.
You can go and watch their shows. Maybe it's 2 days later. But
the thing, too, is, I mean, I feel what was nice about cutting cable, not only did it save us like $1,000 or more a year, but it also kind of gave us back a lot of free time. Like, I actually found I read more. We got out more in the summer. Like, we didn't just, and the TV stopped kind of being the noise in the background. There was many times, especially when Miles was young, like I think there was days where we didn't even turn the TV on all day. Like
actually, when you say that, it's almost as if we replaced the TV with Miles with noise in the background.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, yeah. So, I mean, there was days where I was like, wow, I didn't even turn my TV on all day. Like it didn't really matter. Whereas prior, I would come home, I'd turn it on, I'd have the news on, which was like so negative, and I'd cook dinner to the news, and it was just kind of like,
the dinner was negative. Everything was just negative because
by the time you
were
were done with dinner, you were like, oh, I feel terrible right now. So,
and for me with sports, I mean, baseball is my sport. I can, I've done the subscriptions for the season, so I can watch the Yankees, or I can watch.
Well, and even in our old house, I think in our region, if you bought like the cable channels, you had to pay extra because we weren't like in the region of what the team was you wanted to watch. So it ended up saving you money because we weren't paying for games you couldn't watch or didn't want to watch anyway. And
I got used to. I like to listen to the actual radio. There's another low tech option.
Yeah,
listen to the radio.
I definitely think with podcasts and everything. I mean, there's so much more.
Well, that's
available.
now. 8 years ago,
we first started. We were like, oh, this is going to be hard. I mean, I love the Real Housewives. They're my guilty pleasure. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I could live without them. And I had to wait. Like Hulu didn't put the episodes up early. It was like you'd have to wait 3 weeks to find out what happened. But obviously I survived to tell the story.
Yeah, we're still happly, cord free, just paying for internet.
I mean, if you think about it, we pay for internet, and then with internet we get it everywhere, the Wi-Fi. But yeah, if you think about it, how many hours are you in your house and how much TV you actually consume? So, I mean, now a lot of companies are catching on and they're doing a lot of the like buy the channels you want, pay for what you want kind of thing. But with the internet, it's like they're kind of in a losing game at this point.
They're never going to send me a better deal than what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And the second thing in terms of cutting, we also, and this may surprise you, but we don't have fancy cell phones.
We don't have smartphones. We have dumb ones.
Smartphones.
We have dumb phones. No.
Well, I have a smart
I guess
phone,
it counts as, I guess
but
it does.
We're not.
I don't. I have an old school candy bar phone. I'm happy with that.
And that's cool, but we're not paying hundreds of dollars per month
for data,
for family plans and this.
No.
We use TrackPhone. TrackPhone.com.
Yeah, we switched to TrackPhone. That was 8 years ago. 8 years ago in March, it would be. And now it costs us about $200 a year total. I mean, this year actually we had no minutes. Like we didn't even use all of our units, and we only spent $50 each just to get another year of service, so our numbers wouldn't expire. So yeah, we use TrackPhone, and basically, I mean, you don't ever take your phone with you anywhere, so that's difficult. But you make my life difficult in that sense. You always have your iPad though, and I have an iPod, so we both have devices that are smart in a sense, and we get Wi-Fi everywhere we go. I mean, now and years ago when we first started it. 8 years ago, there wasn't Wi-Fi like Barnes & Noble and Panera and Target and down the street from the house in the woods. Like
now you get Wi-Fi at the gas station.
Yeah, I mean, there's nowhere that we have gone really without Wi-Fi. And then it's like if we're on the highway, we don't really need Wi-Fi because we really shouldn't be looking at our devices. So I'm very happy that.
And if it comes right down to it, if you need to make a phone call, we can call on the phone. We have the phones.
Yeah, we have the track phones. So, I mean, a lot of times, we'll use the track phone. We don't have a house phone. So it's like people know that they can call our track phone and get us, or they can call like our Google Voice numbers. And that's a way that we can communicate. So a lot of times we end up calling people from our computers or our iPod or the iPad.
That's one of my favorite things to do is to sit right here in the house of EdTech and make my phone calls.
Yeah, well, you got a nice microphone and headset, so.
And you do too.
Oh, I do now. So, so that was a great cut. But what else have we done?
We've also lowered a lot of our utility bills by making some more economical choices and environmental choices. So, we keep the temperature maybe lower than most people, but we're not freezing in here.
Well, and I used to hate the cold. Like I would love a house that would be 70.
You still hate the cold. You're not fooling anybody.
True. I do still hate the cold. Although I'm getting used to it because the cold will burn more calories. So
we're also in a house that has much better windows.
Yeah, so we have much better windows. We have much better insulation. So our house does not leak as much as our old house. I mean, our old house, the back door, you literally saw the curtain blowing in the winter. We would have to stuff it with insulation and seal it with
wrap the thing in plastic.
Yeah.
One of my favorite activities that I miss.
And then we had to wrap every window. So, I mean, we were pretty hard with all of that. But, so I mean, getting a more efficient home was obviously ideal, but we keep the temperature. I mean, during the day, it's 60 degrees. I also was very big on, which you didn't understand at the time, but I wanted a southern facing house. Living in the Northeast, a southern facing house brings you the best utility bills no matter what the season. So we get the best light in the house. We get the best warmth from the sun in the winter, which is great. And then it gets a little bit warm in the summer, but we have blackout shades. So we just pull the shades down in the kids' rooms and keep the sun out. And it's really the upstairs so much because we have a porch downstairs. But we get a lot of really great sun. So it keeps the house warm. So during the day when we're at work, our house is only at 60. And the dog just lays in the window in the sun.
She's covered in fur anyway, so.
Yeah. And I mean, even when we were here for the holiday break and everything, I was like, oh, we might have to turn it up. We have the thermostat set, on a cycle or whatever. But
which is also an important tip in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
If you can get a programmable thermostat, that'll make your life easy.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. We don't pay attention to it. But even when we were home, we had it on 60 and we didn't notice it because we were running around so much. I mean, with the little kids, we don't really sit still much anymore.
No, we're always moving.
So when I have it set, so when we come home from school, it goes up to 64 and the house heats itself up slowly. That's how the programmable thermostat works. So it's you say you're going to be home at this time. It'll take a half hour before to kind of heat it up slowly. And I actually read recently because I was nervous about that. I was like, oh, is this going to ruin our furnace? But a lot of everything I looked into said, no, it's not going to kill your furnace. It's not going to wear and tear on anything. Your house it's just going to run like it would normally run. But the lower your temperature is, when it's cold out, the less your house leaks because there's not such a drastic change in temperature. And then at bedtime, we keep it usually at 65 or 64. I've kind of been toying back and forth with it with the baby. He's usually fine though. His room's very warm, but sometimes I get too hot. Sometimes I'm too cold. So I've kind of gone back and forth, but usually we'll have it I'll set it for 64, with when it's still daylight when we get home. And then I have it go up to 65 when it gets dark out just to kind of keep the chill away. And then, sometimes I'll set it to kind of test it out a night or two. It depends on the night. If it's going to be a real cold night, I'll keep it on 65 just to keep us from kind of getting that cold nose while you're sleeping.
Oh,
but
yeah.
the cool air is actually better to sleep into, so you sleep much better.
It helps you relax. And the last thing was, and this we have to have, your mom's not going to listen to this, but shout out to my mother-in-law because she recently changed over her whole house to LED efficient bulbs or LED bulbs. And that inspired us to check them out at her house. We were happy with the light quality. Yeah. And we changed over all of our light bulbs. Years ago, we changed to the CFLs when we first bought our house. Or when they first came out, we switched everything. And literally, I think in 1 month, we noticed a $20 or $30 change in price. I probably also told you to shut the lights off more often. Yeah.
Miles is keeping you in charge of that now.
He's the electricity boss.
He is. Chris kind of had a problem for a while there. He would leave every light on in the house. He just kind of would, I'm going to go back in that room in 6 hours. But so I'd kind of follow him around no, turn the light off. So we switched to the CFLs. We saved a lot of money that way. And then when the LEDs came out and my mom had found it was a 3-pack or a 7-pack for, it wasn't as expensive. We still haven't switched out some of our specialty light bulbs to LED because those were a lot more expensive per bulb. But we were
I'm not spending $5 a light bulb to put light bulbs in my fan in my bedroom.
Yeah, I was we'll do a little bit at a time. We'll see how much we use those, but we tend to use a lot of the smaller lamps in the bedrooms. We don't really use the overhead lights as much. That's more just to kind of, very bright with 4 lights. But so we changed over, so little things like that to kind of focus in on, little savings. You can't focus your entire financial future on, $1 here, $1 there, and if there are certain things that you don't want to get rid of, I know some people hated CFL, so they were like, no, I'm sticking with the incandescent, that's what you do. But yeah, we basically bought a house almost double the size in property, I guess. And basically we pay almost pretty much the same as what we paid for our little townhouse where
It's astounding that you've been able to make that happen for us.
Well, that was my biggest thing. I wanted to find, a new house. We bought our house. I don't know if your listeners know, but basically we bought our house throughout your first year of this podcast.
Yes.
So, our old townhouse, we kind of got caught in the whole mix up with the economy and everything else. And we were underwater, lost a lot of money on that, but we made it through it. And with looking for a new house, I was like, I still want to live on the same budget. I don't want to pay more. So We're very good with like water efficiency and, pretty much anything we've put into this house, it's like, what's the energy efficiency of it? And for me, it's buying a lot more quality items, and that's where I go to like being frugal versus cheap. Like our focus is being frugal. A lot of people think that just means cheap, but I'm going to read you a quick definition from the Simple Dollar because I love how he has it set. Basically, a frugal person seeks to find the best deal on an item that meets the desired level of quality. A cheap person, on the other hand, will always take the route of least financial cost in the here and now. So when you're looking at something, sometimes like when we bought the house and we wanted to put in a new faucet, it was like, well, do I buy the one that's $20, but it's like really crappy and I'm going to have to buy another one in another 2 years? Or do I buy the one that, might be $100, but it's going to last. It's a good company. It has good ratings. So we went more for quality versus having to buy things over and over again. And I think a lot now too, when we look at things, since we kind of made that shift from like, oh, we just need to save money, get the cheapest thing. And then we found things break and you just constantly replace them. We now kind of go more the frugal route, and it's looking for what is the best bang for my buck. What's the best quality item I can get?
Yeah, we're willing to spend a little bit more money to get something that will last and not have to be constantly replaced, as you say.
Yeah, and that goes anywhere from, shoes to
underwear to appliances. you do what you have to do.
Yeah, those important things, right? Yeah, so, we cut things, but we also focus in on quality. And that's made a big difference too. And then I guess we don't feel so deprived either because we're, we'll sit there and say, like, even like I mentioned earlier, I have a new Retina Mac display and computer. But I mean, I've waited 7 years for that. So I really, I was like, okay, this is what I want to get to, and this is what I need to save for, and this is what I'm focusing on. So, I used my real old PC for a while, and then I switched to the MacBook Pro, which I had saved up for. And then I kind of dove into this, and now you're enjoying my MacBook Pro.
Yes, I am. And you're a great example of, you tell people, or you teach a child, save your money, save, and think of that thing that you want. And you, as an adult, you do that.
Delayed gratification. And I think some of the most successful people in the world, they're good at delayed gratification. It's not about the here and now. It's about what the plan is for the future. And I think we always say a lot now, since we kind of have our mission statement and goals, and we want to be financially free in the future. A lot of times when you and I will sit down to discuss a large purchase or something, and we're like, how is this going to affect future Kate? How is this going to affect future Chris? Like, where is that in the line? So we weigh quality, but we also weigh what is that going to take away from the future? Does that mean we're going to have to work an extra year? Does that mean, what does that change, and how does that change? So, we consider it all in the capacity of our finances, even though they're, I think living in a developed country, we're doing very well. There are people that live on far less than we do on a daily basis. So I don't feel like we're so deprived, but we also are surrounded by a lot of people who have a lot more and do a lot more. But again, I don't know their financial picture and I don't know their goals. So it works for us. And, I'm looking forward to my 40s.
Yes, because hopefully we'll be mortgage free and traveling the world, coming back to our forever home.
Yeah. And I mean, and for us, again, I want to just say, like, financial freedom isn't about quitting your job the day you're financially free. Like, we don't hate our jobs. We enjoy what we do. We enjoy working with people. We enjoy our colleagues and or even just the field we're in, the career we're in. So it's not necessarily like, oh, we want to make it to this date and then I quit. It's just a matter of like, we don't want to feel that weight of, we need this in order to do this. It then just becomes a passive income kind of thing, and we do it more for enjoyment and passions and interests, or it gives us that opportunity to explore other passions and interests, full-time podcaster or something. Maybe I'll start my own podcast. I don't know.
I got to be honest, as much as I love the House of EdTech, and I do, believe me, I do, I also feel that there are other topics and things that I would like to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out there, a lot of great things. So, so it would open us up for more opportunity to just, shift gears and do that. So we kind of hold back a lot now in order for that in the future. And I'm just a very cautious person anyway.
Yeah, we'll take advantage of it later. So we'll still be young enough to appreciate the fruits of our labor.
Yeah, I think that's too. Like, I don't think we both have the picture of like, okay, we're both going to be kind of holding on to 65 and waiting until that moment, then we can enjoy our lives when we don't want to go anywhere and do anything. Because I'm sure by the time I'm that age, I'm going to be set in my ways and I'm going to be like, I'm not packing a suitcase. I'm not going to a crazy airport. There's dangerous people out there. So just try to do that kind of stuff while we can. And I also, another thing, I don't know if you share this feeling, but I don't want to be a financial burden on our children. Not that anybody's a financial burden on us. We don't have that problem, thankfully. But I just always think I don't want to have to put my children in a position when they're older with their families having to somehow pay for us as well. I luckily our parents didn't, they planned for their future and did pretty well that way. And things are working out, for them. So and that's one of the, Trent Ham's thing on the Simple Dollar. He talks about that a lot. How his goal is not to be a burden on his children. So for me, I don't want to, think, okay, well, when I'm in my 60s, they're going to pay for my way. Because it's hard. I can't imagine if we had to do both, take care of our children and take care of our elderly, our elders at the same time.
You're more concerned with that because you're the youngest child. And
it's usually who it falls on. I guess your parents are
I'm the oldest, so I'm off the hook. I'm just kidding. I would totally help to take care of my parents.
Yeah. I don't mean to take care of take care of them. Obviously, I've taken care of my mom during surgeries and things like that, but not to be fully responsible for all of their bills and all of that kind of stuff, so that they, so they don't have to worry about us. We can say, hey, we're fine. We're good. And maybe we can help them out at that point if they need some help. But don't tell them that.
No. So, so let's recap real quick.
Sure.
The overall highlights. I think the biggest word is to communicate. Communication is really more key. Actually, you know what? I think it applies if you have a special person in your life. Obviously, you need to communicate with that person. Mm-hmm. If you are not married and you're not in a relationship with somebody, you need to be honest with yourself in terms of what you can do financially.
And I also think if you plan to eventually be in a relationship with anybody, I think being financially savvy and getting your own ducks in a row is important because, I can say as a woman, that's something that's attractive in someone is, hey, do they have their stuff together or am I going to have to fix it? And some people are attracted to fixing things, but, to just kind of be aware of what's going on, what's coming and what's going and have kind of a little bit of a game plan for the future. Yeah. I think that definitely is great and not, with the plans of relying on somebody else in the future. I was brought up with don't rely on anybody. You kind of have to rely on yourself. So I wasn't like, it wasn't like marry rich.
And you definitely didn't do that. So communication, technology real quick to recap, take a look at some financial management software, whether it's something like Money Dance like Kate and I use or Google Sheets or Quicken or...
Yeah, just start with a budget. A basic budget in Google Sheets is even great.
Keep track of what's going in and what's going out.
There's a lot of templates you can get right in Google for all of that, or check out the blogs that I had mentioned.
That goes to the other point, too. If you don't know enough about this, you're a teacher, you're into education, go out and do research. One thing that Katelyn is going to do is, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag, we're actually going to post in the show notes for this episode a blank version of the template that Kate uses to manage our finances that you could download, import into your Google Docs or download it as Excel, and you can modify that to work for you, but it's a place to start. So we're really looking forward to sharing that, and you can get that on the show notes page for this episode over on chrisnesi.com. And again, this is episode number 52, and it'll probably have both of our pictures in the image for this. The third part of the review is to consider where you can make cuts in your financial expenditures. Where can you cut back and really take a hard look at where your money is going? And the last thing to recap is to take a look at where you can cut back financially. Again, you could consider cutting your cable, you can consider cutting out your cell phones, and you could just take a look at what you're spending money on in terms of home and your utilities. And again, just be honest with yourself, be honest with your partner, communicate, and you can accomplish whatever you want to. Just set the goals, and it's something to work towards. As Katelyn has told me many times, write it down, whether it's a list or keep a calendar. That's a big tip. Write down your goals and make them something you can look at every day, and that can help you achieve them. So, Katelyn, that was fun to talk about finance, yeah?
Yeah, I love talking about finance. I enjoy it. And you can always check me out at blog.katenesi.com. Sometimes I write about being frugal in finance and some of the other projects and things that we're doing around here. So definitely check out my blog.
Nice. All right, let's move on in the program. It's now time to talk about this episode's House of EdTech VIP, and I'd like to congratulate Dr. Wesley Fryer. Dr. Wes Fryer is an author, teacher, technology director, speaker, digital storyteller, and an agent of change. He is the director of technology for the Cassidy School District in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. From 2013 to 2015, he taught 4th and 5th grade STEM at Independence Elementary in Yukon Public Schools in Oklahoma. Wes completed his PhD in Curriculum and Instruction from Texas Tech University in 2011. He's also the author of several books on effectively using digital technologies to communicate, tell stories, teach, and also assess learning. His Mapping Media to the Curriculum book series and Digital Literacy Framework focuses on helping students show what they know with media and the ability to create digital portfolios. Wes maintains a library of multimedia-focused training and instructional videos on one of his websites, playingwithmedia.com. He's also the leader of a 3-day iPad Media Camp, which you can find more information about at iPadMediaCamp.com, where he teaches educators how to effectively use iPads in the classroom to create narrated slideshows, quick edit videos, and also do some interactive writing. Very cool stuff. The honors don't end there. Wes became an Apple Distinguished Educator in 2005, a Google Certified Teacher in 2009, and his latest accomplishment in 2014, he became a PBS Digital Innovator. And he's also a podcaster, so I do recommend you check out his podcast, Moving at the Speed of Creativity, which can be found at speedofcreativity.org and also on iTunes. Definitely connect with Wes if you're not connected on Twitter. He is at WFryer, WFRYER, and his main website is wesfryer.com. Congratulations, Wes. You are the House of EdTech VIP. Well, Katelyn, that's going to do it for this episode of the House of EdTech. What'd you think?
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on. Maybe I'll come back.
I think you will. Everybody can keep the conversation going by visiting my website, chrisnesi.com. The show notes for this episode, number 52, will contain all the links and information that we shared and talked about today. So I can't thank you enough, Katelyn, for being here. Thank you for sharing so much of what we do.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to.
As Katelyn knows, I'm always looking to connect with people, whether it's friends or colleagues. So I want to connect with you and hear your thoughts on the information and resources that are shared in this episode and every episode as you go back and listen to other episodes in the show. On the website, click the Share Feedback button. That will give you access to my email and also the other ways to connect with me. The fastest way is Twitter. My username is Mr. Nesi, MrNesi, and when you tweet to me, use the hashtag House of EdTech. Now, if you enjoyed this show, and I don't see why you wouldn't, I've been doing this for 2 years. Katelyn's been a part of now this episode. She's having a good time. She's laughing right now. That's right, she's laughing. If you like the show, first and foremost, go tell somebody. It's very simple. Tell somebody else about the show. A colleague, a supervisor, anybody who you think would love the program, tell them. Tell them to go to chrisnesi.com and check it out. Second, rate and review the podcast on iTunes. Your rating and honest review will help to keep the House of EdTech front and center for others to discover and enjoy. The third way, if you'd like to show additional support, you can also check out my patreon.com page. You can go to patreon.com/houseofedtech and become an awesome supporter of the show. I couldn't do this show without the people who support it, so thank you to all of you. On the next episode of the House of EdTech, I look forward to sharing more EdTech insights, and look for the next episode of the podcast, episode number 53, on January 31st, 2016. Well, Katelyn, that's it. It's time to go. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you who's listening. Thank you for joining us. And remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try. The House of EdTech is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. The Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more, go to edupodcastnetwork.com.